Hi, I'm Jim DeCola, Master Luthier for Gibson Guitars. Welcome to Gibson's Guide to Guitar Setup and Maintenance. In this episode, we're going to talk about adjusting your acoustic guitar's action. Now, adjusting your acoustic guitar's action is a little bit more involved because it doesn't have the usual adjustment methods that electric guitars have with adjustable bridges and so forth. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your guitar is set up properly, meaning your neck is adjusted properly, your nuts filed properly, and so forth. Once you verify that, that'll tell you where your action actually is. Measure your action at the 12th fret, and our acoustic guitar specs are 4/64ths gap under the high E string to the 12th fret and 6/64ths under the low E string and the top of the fret at the 12th fret. Once you verify that, or your action may vary, maybe it's not that, maybe it's a different action and you want to lower it, you determine how much you want to lower it by. So let's just say your action is 5 and 7, but you want to lower it to 4 and 6, to get it back to factory spec. Then what you'll do is that'll kind of determine how much you want to take that bridge saddle down. So if you're taking it down 1/64th at the 12th fret, because the action on a guitar is angled up, what you'll do is double that dimension from the 12th fret to the bridge. So if you want to take it down 1/64th, if that's what you measure, that's your dimension that you want to lower it by, double that, so it would be 2/64ths that you're going to remove material on the bridge. So when you remove 2/64ths on the bridge, that'll take it down 1/64ths at the 12th fret. And when you do that, it's best to work a little at a time, because you can always take off a little bit more, but if you sand too much, you can't put it back on. After we determine how much to take off, now we're going to loosen the strings and prepare the guitar. If I'm lowering the action on a guitar where I know it may take a little bit of work, I'll probably keep the same strings on. That way I can use those same strings if it takes me, 1, 2, or 3 times to zero in on that action. And that way you're not stressing out a new set of strings by, taking them to pitch, numerous times. So I'll loosen them up, and because I plan on reusing these strings, I'll loosen them, and then I'll put the capo on at the 1st fret, and that'll hold the strings in place so they don't unravel on the tuners. I'll then use the peg winder and the bridge pin puller feature on that and remove all the bridge pins. And then I'll take the strings and I'll generally coil them up like so and loop it in 1 or 2 times just to keep it a little bit more tidy. That way it has less chance of snagging the bench or scratching the instrument and so forth. Now I can remove the saddle. Sometimes they may be a little sticky. You might want to get some pliers and gently pull it up if so, but this one I was able to take out. So now I know I want to take 2/64ths off the bottom of that saddle. Then you can mark it with a ruler that's graduated in 64ths, or what I like to do is actually use calipers. And then I'll just convert the fractions into decimal points. So 2/64ths would be equivalent to 1/32nd, which is 32 thousandths or thereabouts, right? And then I'll, on a flat surface, move this here, I'll use the calipers to scribe the bottom of the saddle. And I'll take a fine tip pencil, and now I have a clean line that I can follow. And when I get done, I'll still want to see just a touch of that line. That allows me to know that I'm easing into it, not going over. So what I like to use is, it's critical that you keep the bottom of the saddle flat. And especially if you have a piezo pickup, a saddle mount pickup, if you have a curvature or if your saddle is slanted on the bottom in that direction, if it's uneven in any way, you'll have string and balance problems. So by keeping it sanded flat, you'll be able to have, better balance with your pickups, and it's just a lot cleaner to do work. So what I like to do is take a piece of glass and then put some adhesive back sandpaper on it, and then I use a thin board as a fence. So now I can sand that saddle and slide it alongside that fence, and it's keeping everything true. The glass is flat, so I know I'm not going to get any kind of ripples or uneven surface on the bottom of the saddle. And then because of that fence, I know the saddle is not going to tilt either way. And you want to put even pressure on there. Work a little at a time. And then stop and inspect your work. And ease into that pencil line. Okay? And then you can use your straight edge to just verify, and I like to hold it up to the light and verify that it's flat. Look at it in that direction, make sure that I didn't cause it to tilt so it lays flat in the saddle. And then I can reinsert it in the slot. Also, notice, generally most acoustic saddles have a high side and a low side. Generally, your high side is on your low E string side, your wound strings, and then it'll taper down to your plain strings. So I'll put it back in that same direction. Now, I can restring it and then verify the action once it's back up to tension. Now we have the guitar tuned back up to pitch. I'm going to verify the action, and it worked out to be exactly where I need it at 4 and 6. Sometimes you might have to go back and forth a few times. Like I said, it's best to do that to ease into it, because if you remove too much material, it's more difficult to correct than if you just ease into it. Now, if your guitar needs the action higher, if it doesn't have a pickup, that's easier to do. And if you're in a gigging situation, and a lot of times acoustic guitars, the environment, because of the weather and the humidity, can cause the top to fluctuate, and move, and that'll affect your action. So you might be in a scenario where it's just a little too low and buzzy and you need to raise it because of those conditions. Generally, you can take maybe a business card or something like that. If you're going to get in MacGyver mode and you need to take care of it quick, you can take your saddle and use it as a guide and draw your lines on a business card and trim it and put that under the saddle. And generally, under conditions like that, if your top's moving a little bit, that would be enough thickness to overcome how much it moved. If you don't have a pickup, you might even leave it in there for a while. I know some people who leave it in there all the time. It doesn't affect them. Just depends on how particular they are. You can also use a thin wood veneer or even some paper. But those are generally what you do if you don't have another saddle. If you need a new saddle, generally you can buy a saddle blank that's generally higher than you need. So if you know how much you want to raise it based off of your existing saddle, you take those dimensions just like we did to lower it. If you know you want to raise it a 64th, then you would take your old saddle out, and I like to again, put it on a flat surface with both saddles side by side and kind of take a fine pencil and scribe the top of that saddle against that taller saddle, and that will give you, a reference point to sand down into. And you can also work in reverse too. If you don't want to mess with the top, if it's compensated, you can, as long as you're locating on the outside, take it off the bottom. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, your choice. Generally, the bottom will be the easiest. And you can take it off of there a little bit at a time, double your dimensions, just like I said. If you want to raise it a 64th, double it on your bridge saddle, and that'll give you that elevation you're looking for. So I touched off of why the action can vary with the neck and with the top. The climate can affect the curvature of the neck. It can affect the tops. So tops can, contract or expand, and that will affect your action. So if your guitar is in equilibrated, normal, nominal kind of humidity that you're normally accustomed to, it can stay pretty stable for a long time. But if you're traveling, or for some reason if there's an unusually dry spell and your heater kicks on and excessively dries out the air, then that top may kind of sink a little bit, and then it'll start buzzing. So one way to remedy that is to get one of those humidifiers, which generally go in the sound hole and bring back that moisture content into the top. But in the interim, say you're at a gig and that happens, you don't have time, because it might take overnight or a day or two to humidify that guitar box where it needs to be. So to get by, you can put a shim in there and it will sound fine, and it'll get you through the gig, and that's how you can overcome that scenario. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of Gibson's Guide to Guitar Setup and Maintenance.